Okay, folks, we have put together our numbers for our third year of traveling full-time as nomad travelers. Did we hit our budget? Did we not hit our budget? We're going to share all the expenses categories and how it's spread across our budget for the entire year. So for all you spreadsheet people, all you folks wondering how much it costs to travel, this is the video for you. Where are we, honey?
Yeah, so happy anniversary to us. We have been traveling for exactly 3 years and a full-time travel with nothing but our carry-on bags. We left Colorado 3 years ago and have had an amazing year and really excited to give you the numbers. And, you know, a lot of our videos are like Chris's video and I'm just the eye candy.
Yeah, you're the eye candy.
But,
this is all about Steve on this video.
in this video, we drill down the numbers. We're going to show you how much it costs to travel the world, where we went, what we did, but specifically, did we hit our budget for the year?
Yeah.
And how did it compare to last year? And what are some trends that we see in our spending? So you can do this too. So
yeah.
That's the whole idea, is you can do what we're doing.
And I think what's important is, even though we have a number and it's a budget, that doesn't mean our number is a number that you'll use. What we want you to take away from this video is how to kind of think about what you're going to spend and how that spending goes across categories. So even though our number is higher or lower than what you might be thinking to spend, the strategies and the tracking and all the things we talk about in this video are relevant regardless of how much you will or will not spend in your nomad life.
Right. And so last week we shared with you all of our adventures and all the places that we went to for the whole past year. And next week we're going to talk about the budgeting process. We're going to do our budgeting kind of live with you for year 4 and give you a brief look into where we're going to go for our 4th year of travel. But this week we're talking about how much money we spent. So real briefly, just wanted to kind of give you a visual of where we went for the year. We really were only in 2 countries, 2 big countries. It seemed to do a lot of traveling and a lot of craziness, but we were really only in the United States and in Australia with a bunch of cruises in between, and we'll kind of break that down for you.
I mean, it adds up to 13 countries really, but only our big time was in 2 different countries, and they were very expensive countries.
They are. They definitely are the couple of the most expensive countries that we've been in, and I think we might have budgeted for that. I don't know. Let's take a look at how much we spent each month versus our budget. Now, to break it down, we had a budget of $52,000 for the whole year. That's how much money we targeted to spend
for the two of us.
For the 2 of us.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of a little disclaimer, it's not like we'll run out of money if we go more than our budget or if something disastrous would happen. It's just a target that we set to see, again, is this a realistic number? Can you travel the world for $52,000 a year?
Yeah.
And then this is showing us how much we spent each month. Now, you see that there were some months that were under budget, there were some months that were over budget. What happened in January?
Holy cow, what did we spend in January? Like $12,000 or something in January. But I think it's important to know we account for our money when we spend it, not when we actually use it. So in January, we just had a ton of things we pre-purchased for the rest of the year. So even though our fiscal year ends on May 31st, if we purchase something in January for maybe something we're doing in August, we accounted for it in January. So in January, it was like the cruise season, the wave season was upon us, and it was time to purchase all of our cruises because that's when generally prices are the cheapest on cruises. We looked at what we're going to do for the year, and boom, we did a lot of purchasing in January on cruises and some other things too.
Well, let's take a look at our spending, and let's take a look at the different kind of categories that we break this down. Now, just kind of, again, how do we make this easy? When we are spending money with our credit card, and we typically are going to use one of our Chase credit cards. If you want to know more about Chase credit cards, you can see in our description below. Chase breaks it all down for us into different categories, so that we don't have to
But what do you mean?
time.
So when we at the end of the month, we can go to Chase, we can download a spreadsheet, and on that spreadsheet, Chase says, here's a category, here's a category, here's a category. We don't even have to think about it.
Yeah. So we don't have to track it as we go. So let's take a look, a little pie chart here of where we spent our money. And the first thing that I look at this is the big pieces of the pie if you look at where we spent our money, it's more than 75% of it was in our housing, our transportation, and our food.
Yeah.
So
I mean, what else do we spend money on? I mean, if it's not edible, disposable, or wearable, we don't buy it.
And even some things that are wearable,
right.
we eat.
Yeah, no. I'm not eating my fruit leather these days. So housing was 26.8%, travel 24.5%, total food 26.1%, and then bill and utilities. This is like our phone and mail service and things like that. That's 3%. Health and wellness, trips to the doctor, aspirin, sunscreen.
Yeah, health insurance is the biggest part in our health and wellness.
Yeah, and when we're in Thailand is massage, but we didn't go to Thailand this year. Shopping is just new clothes or shoes or backpacks, whatever we might need, and then entertainment was 8.1%. Let's look at our numbers of what we spent versus what we budgeted.
Right.
So if you look at our categories, in our housing budget, we actually had budgeted $14,400 for our housing, and we spent $13,871. So we were 4% under, which actually is pretty good. We did pretty good on housing.
I think that's amazing. And we're going to drill down on housing in a little bit because that's the biggest piece and the piece that's, I think, is the most complicated.
And then on food, our total budget was $13,200, and we spent just a little bit over by 2%. And we do break that out to what we eat out and what we actually buy in groceries. Travel, we were at $10,240 was our budget. We were over $12,666, and we'll talk a little bit about why we were over on that. Health and wellness, we were actually under. I guess we're sick or either we're really healthy and really well. The budget was $4,800. We spent $2,323. On shopping, we had a budget of $3,600 and spent $3,640. That extra $40 was for that T-shirt you got in Australia. Entertainment was $3,600. We had on a budget. We spent $4,215. I'm actually proud that we overspent on our entertainment because we find that we don't really spend a lot on entertainment. So it was a real challenge to make sure we spent our money on entertainment this year. And finally, bills and utilities, a budget of $2,160, and we came in under at $1,538.
Yeah. Let's just break down a couple of things. So the health and wellness, again, the majority of that is health insurance. And because we were in the United States for a good chunk of that period of time in the last year, we do have an ACA plan, and because of our level of our income, that doesn't we don't have any premiums on that. So that was a great way to save some money. And also, we left the country for just under 6 months. And so we were able to get a travel health policy in order to save a little bit of money versus a full medical international insurance policy.
Right, so we really only had to pay for insurance for about 5 months this past year. And when we were originally allocating and budgeting our expenses the previous year, I don't think we considered that we'd only need insurance for 6 months.
Food was actually a really surprising. Again, we were in the United States and Australia, two really expensive countries for food. And because we ate home a lot, we spent a lot more on groceries. It's still a small portion of our budget, but we did spend more than we expected to on groceries.
Yeah, and I want to clarify, groceries in the U.S., they're moderately priced. I mean, I don't think they're really super high or really super low. In Australia, though, groceries are much more expensive. Of course, it's an island, and they have a lot of importing and exporting they need to do. Well, it's a continent island, and they do produce a lot of their own food, but they still bring a lot of stuff in from other countries.
Yeah, it seems more remote. It seems more like, how did they get my Italian, pasta here to Australia?
And prepared foods and going out much more expensive in the U.S. and in Australia, as we all know.
Yeah, even with the exchange rate is really favorable in Australia, it just seemed like every time we went out to eat, it was just, it seemed like a lot of money. It
was nice that we didn't have to pay for tips, though, in Australia, like you have to pay in the U.S. So we saved ourselves 10 to 20% on each meal by not having to tip.
Yeah, so let's break this down and let's take a look at how much we spent versus last year, versus year 2 of our full time in travel.
Well, so year 1 we had a budget of $48,000, Year 2, we had a budget of 50,000.
No, we kept it at 48.
At 48, okay.
Yeah.
So year 1 and 2, 48,000, and year 3,
year 3 is
50,000.
when we gave ourselves a raise to 52,000.
50. Thank you, money
I'm
man,
a budget
numbers
guy.
man. What did you look to see what the percentage increase was in our budget between the second year and the third year?
7%.
7%. And so, what was inflation over that time period?
I would guess 7%.
Okay, so are we keeping up with inflation?
Yeah,
we'll see.
Exactly. Yeah. So what are some of the variations between year 3 and year 2?
Yeah. So on the chart, you see the first line of housing, and our actual spending in year 3 was $13,871. In year 2, it was almost the same number, $13,753. So a 1% difference.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Food was $13,513 in year 3, and in year 2, $11,704, or 15% increase. And I absolutely did see that. I mean, if you look at like the price of tomato or price of avocado, you can certainly see where inflation was catching up with us on food.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And of course, we break that down as eating out and on groceries. On travel, our actual spend in our third year was $12,666, and our second year $9,352, a 35% increase. Why was it more?
We spent a lot more. Well, because tell you a little bit about how we do our cruises. So we break down the cost of our cruise into a few different categories. So if it's $1,000 cruise, we'll put about 40 to 45% of that into our housing cost, and then we'll also put in 25% into food. We'll put 25% into travel, and then the rest will go into like a little entertainment amount. So we did a lot of cruising, as we'll break this down a bit more and show you how much we did in cruising. But also, we went across some really big geographies, and Australia, we did a lot of traveling around.
We saw half the country. Yeah, about half the country in Australia.
Yeah.
So in Australia and the US are about the same size. So we saw, comparatively, we saw half the US, and compared, we saw half the US.
Right. So we had a lot more plane flights, and Tasmania, Uluru. We went from Melbourne to Sydney. So we had a surprise trip that we didn't think we were going to take to Auckland from Sydney. So that all factors in there, and of course the cost of transportation is going up just like everything else.
Yeah. So just hitting a couple more things in comparison. So on health and wellness, our year 3 was $23.23, and in year 2 it was $48.69. So a 52% decrease. So I guess we were more healthy and more well. Oh, that's the change in the insurance.
Health insurance, yeah.
Insurance, okay. Shopping, we were right on the money both years, hit the same number both years. And then in entertainment, we were up on our third year by 33% at $42.15 versus $31.67, which of course I just talked about. And then our bills and utilities, we were down $15.38 versus $21.88, or a 30% decrease. I wonder why our bills and utilities.
Yeah, and that's pretty much our mail plan and our phone plan. Yeah. We got to Australia, and I got this amazing deal on. I think I got a 6-month SIM card with unlimited data for like $75 or something like that. So it was a really great price that I didn't think I would get such a great price on that. And then I had that deal from Google Fi when we were in the States.
Yeah, so you really hacked your cell phone
on my
last year.
Phone, exactly. So my cost for my phone was really low for the last year or so.
Okay. All right, so moving on.
Yeah, so I just want to break down and drill down into our housing. We showed you that we spent about the same amount on housing in year 2 and year 3, $13,000. And when I break that down a little bit, I was like, how much is that per month? And that's only $1,156
or $38 a day.
How did we possibly spend $38 a day
in U.S. and Australia?
In
Thailand or Southeast Asia, you absolutely could do that, but certainly not in these big expensive countries. So how do we do it?
Before we break down the price, I want to share a little bit more about our travel style and kind of how we moved around in these different places. Another statistic that I love to come up with is that we slept in 51 different beds.
51 different beds. That's like one every 3 days, right?
One a week, right? So every week. So you'd think that we were moving locations every week, right? If we slept in 51 different places. Some people say I sleep around. I don't know. I do not. But so I broke this down into a little chart that kind of shows how we fast and slow travel at the same time.
You're asking the question: are we fast travelers or slow travelers? Right. So I think of slow travelers as people who move like maybe 12 times a year. They move 30 days at a time.
1 month.
Yeah, 12 to
and that's
15
kind
times
of
a year.
when we tell people what our goal is. Our goal is to move to a different place once a month. So that's our goal. Do we do that? Probably not if we slept in 51 different locations. But you can see from this chart, in a lot of cases, we were in a particular spot for more than 2 weeks, up to as much as 40 days almost. Right. In one particular
So that would be a cruise. I mean, even we're moving around on a cruise, but that only counts as one bed.
Exactly. But there were some times that we did some fast travel. So, for example, in Tasmania, we had 7 days. We were traveling through the state, and we pretty much spent a different night
every night or every other night. Yeah.
So there are some times that we do fast travel, but then we combine that, I think, with a 2 week or more stay in one place, which is slow travel. So breaking that down in how the different types of places that we're staying, this is a chart that shows year 3 versus year 2. What were our types of accommodations?
Right. So in year 1 we had 115 days in Airbnb. In year 2, 132, and then last year only 16 days in Airbnb. I mean, people ask us all the time, "Do you stay at Airbnb a lot?"
I would say yes.
But not last year. It was only 16 days.
Right.
So, but next year you're going to see that number change a lot. House sitting. This is a huge number for our year 3, 189 days. The year 3 was the year that we spent the most days in house sitting versus 50 in our second year and 162 in our first. Yeah. And the reason why we had so much house sitting is because accommodations in the U.S. and Australia are incredibly expensive. I mean, they're at least $100 a night for a shed with a tiny toilet and maybe a hot shower, or maybe hot water. So it's very difficult to find affordable housing. So house sitting in these countries really paid off for us.
Yeah, it really did. And if you want to know more about our house sitting strategy, we've got a video up here. You can go ahead and you can learn more about that. We also have a link down below in the description to our trusted house sitters if you want to do house sitting and making that part of your travel strategy.
Yeah, and when we mean house sitting, we mean we are staying at someone's house, probably taking care of a pet in exchange for the chance to stay there. So there's no exchange of money between the homeowner and us. We get to stay there for free, and they don't have to pay for kennel care or house care of their home. So if you want to know more about that, like Steve said, check out Trusted House Sitters. And for hotels, we only stayed 51 nights in hotels versus 108 in our second year and 46 in our first.
Yeah.
Friends and family, believe it or not, we only stayed 17 nights, even though all of our time in the U.S. was spending time with friends and family. Versus 36 in our second year and 11 in our first year. And then cruise days, wow, did our number increase our third year, almost 3 times what it was our second year. So 92 versus 39 and 31 in our first year.
Yeah, 92 days on a cruise ship, and that was over 5 different cruises. We went to Greenland. We crossed the Pacific twice. Yeah. We did a cruise from Sydney to New Zealand.
Yes, we crossed the Tasmanian Sea 3 times.
We did, and it's kind of rough water.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we did a lot of nights in cruising, and also back to a little bit to the hotel. So we also use a lot of hotel points and bonus points, whether it be Chase points or hotel points. So probably of that 51 hotel nights, probably 20 or 25 of those were on points. So it doesn't even count really into our budget. So you answer that question, how do you spend $37 a night in accommodations between hotel points and house sitting? It really brings down the cost of your accommodations.
And we want to acknowledge that we do use points, and we use hotel points and Chase points and so on. And we feel very privileged and very lucky as Americans that we can use credit cards and accrue these points and do all of these games to pay for things with points. We realize a lot of people around the world are not that fortunate, and that we also, the system of allowing us to use points may be a little skewed in our favor. And we just owe a lot of gratitude and thank you towards those systems being allowed to benefit us.
we haven't told you yet if we actually hit our budget number or we went over budget.
Okay, is this my drum roll time?
This is
this the Christmas musician?
And we do the drum roll.
Did we hit our budget for our third year? Man, oh man. Okay, so before we answer the question, I want to honor our friends Latrice and Brian, who came to visit us in Aruba the last month. So in May, we were at the end of our budget. We knew how close we were. They came to visit us on the 50th week of our budget. So we had 2 more weeks to go, and we're like, they want to do all these things, and we're like, okay, well, will it fit in the budget? Will it fit in the budget? Can we make it? Can we not make it? And we ended up doing all the things we wanted to do, but we honor them for listening and us whine about whether or not we were going to hit our budget or not. So anyway, drum roll. Did we hit our budget? All right, do I get to say it or you can say it?
You get to say it.
We did! Oh my God! I mean, we came in within almost pennies of our budget. So in year 3, we spent $51,766 on a $52,000 budget. We came in $234 below budget, or 0.4%.
Half a percent.
Half a percent, right?
Under budget.
Under budget. So we feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, and we gave ourselves for this year, we gave ourselves a 7% raise, if you will, to $52,000. And so versus last year, we were about 6.5% over last year, which is exactly what we anticipated.
Yeah, right. So last year we spent $48,661 compared to $51,766, and we were at 6.4% over last year's budget. So we came in right in at inflation, basically.
It was a fantastic year, and again, if you want to know what we did and where we went, that was last week's video. Go ahead, we'll put up a link here. And if you have any questions about money, about budgeting, next week we're going to show you a little sneak preview as to where we're going, what we're going to be doing, and how to actually, real time create a travel budget. So if you're really interested in doing the kind of budget that we showed you here, join us next week.
All right, thanks guys. See you soon.